Hey guys, Dimension Master Studios here, how y'all doing? So in case you guys don't know, when it comes to Ninjago Crystalized, episode 16, The Darkness Within, is currently out in English, sort of, and in today's video I decided I was going to give you guys my personal review for the episode. And what are my overall thoughts when it comes to this episode? I do think that this is honestly one of the better episodes from Crystalized, but overall, there are still some issues that I have when it comes to the episode, and I'll explain that when it comes to the video. And so, let's begin. The episode starts off with Lloyd being in chains, with those chains being made out of Venstone, and Harumi and the other members of the Council of the Crystal King walk in with the golden weapons. And Harumi, he brings up the fact that when it comes to the monastery, it is destroyed, and everyone who Lloyd knows and cares about at this point, they're all gone. And I can give the villains the benefit of the doubt in the situation because they don't know that the heroes survived. To the perspective of the villains, all the heroes are dead, and Lloyd's the only survivor. So it does make sense as to why Harumi would say this sort of thing, because again, she and the other members of the council, they don't know that everyone survived. So you have that. Harumi also does something pretty interesting, comparing Lloyd's situation to her when the Great Devourer did its whole rampage during Season 1, bringing up the fact that her parents died during the Great Devourer event and how she's all alone, and now Lloyd is in the same situation. And there's a couple things that I want to say when it comes to this. For starters, when it comes to the point that Harumi's trying to make with Lloyd being all alone, these are two completely different situations when it comes to the comparison Harumi's trying to make. Because when it comes to the Great Devourer event, Harumi's parents dying was completely unintentional. It's something that wasn't meant to happen, and it was something that happened just because the Great Devourer was rampaging mindlessly over Ninjago City and was just trying to eat stuff. Meanwhile, when it comes to Harumi, she intentionally tried to kill everyone who was close to Lloyd just to make him suffer and feel pain for basically no reason at all. And so when it comes to these situations, they are completely different from each other. Because Harumi's parents dying, that was unintentional and it wasn't meant to happen. Meanwhile, the attempted murder of the ninja and everyone close to Lloyd, that is something that Harumi wanted to do. So, we have that situation going on. And one other thing that I want to point out, I do think it is actually kind of funny how Lloyd and Harumi, they're talking about the Great Devourer event, and Pythor is literally right there, and he's the one responsible for unleashing the Devourer in the first place, and he just doesn't say anything. Admittedly, that is kind of funny, and it does make me wonder if they're going to bring that up at some point during Crystalized, that, Pythor was responsible for the Great Devourer event in the first place. Could be interesting. Then, after this, just like during episode 14, we get a genuinely satisfying moment where Lloyd is just so angry and upset at Harumi, and just, this moment is so good, I think. Lloyd basically calls out Harumi, bringing up the fact that she's the one responsible for taking away his friends, and how she's no better than the Devourer, and how Lloyd is going to make sure that Harumi is going to pay for what she did. And just, again, this moment is so satisfying because it shows Lloyd standing up to Harumi, which is great, but it also shows that when it comes to Crystalized, the writers did remember all the character development that Lloyd went through during the events of the Wild Brain era of the show, and honestly, after watching episodes 13 and 14, I was genuinely worried that the writers were just going to ignore all of Lloyd's development and act like it never happened during this season, but after watching this episode, I am genuinely glad that the writers did remember that Lloyd went through this whole arc of him getting over Harumi and moving on from her. And right now, when it comes to Crystalized, we are once again seeing the continuation of that arc with Lloyd fighting against Harumi. That is so great to see, honestly. We then get a chance to see the original 4 ninja who are still stuck under the subway car. Luckily, Zane is able to notice a rat and going through some cracks in some of the rubble, and so the ninja make their way through, getting into a much wider open space. And then we get a pretty funny moment, actually, where Jay is singing a song about a samurai who only has enough ramen to last for 3 days. And just, again, seriously, like I said during my review, I think that the comedy for Crystalized is honestly really good, and this season is legitimately funny. Not Master of the Mountain levels funny, because I still think that's the funniest season in the show, but still, this season is hilarious nonetheless. However, eventually, the debris ends up starting to cave in on the ninja, and it looks like things are going to be at their worst for the team. Luckily, Nia shows up, and she's able to save the ninja from the subway area, and so they're all safe. Nia then fills the ninja team in on what's happened with the destruction of the monastery, and the emotion during this is pretty good, because we get to feel the weight of what's going on when it comes to the ninja with them losing their home again. It is definitely something pretty interesting, and then Nia brings up the fact that when it comes to the villains, a bunch of them are back, they've taken the golden weapons, and Harumi is responsible for this. Eventually, the cops show up and the ninja leave on the Samurai X mech, and Hound Prague is upset that he wasn't able to try and arrest the ninja. Although, let's be honest, there's no way this guy would have been successful arresting the ninja at all, considering the fact that, there's 5 of them right here. They have powers, or, well, the original 4 do, plus Nia's using a giant mech. There's no way this guy would have been successful at all in arresting the ninja. The team eventually made their way to the old Samurai X base, and it is really cool seeing this finally make a return after it not being in the show for years. Again, it is pretty cool. And with the ninja going inside, we actually get a chance to see the combo mech from the core set. So, again, that's something pretty cool. Yeah, we had a chance to see this thing show up in the show, actually. Again, that is neat. We also find out that when it comes to the mini-pix that saved everyone, Pixel decided to give it a name, with it being Mini-Pix 7. And after playing Xenoblade Chronicles 3 for a very long time, this did actually remind me of one character in particular from that game, and if you've played Xenoblade Chronicles X, then you know exactly who I'm talking about. I won't say the character because they are technically a character who appears late game, and again, no spoilers. The ninja then talk about what they're going to do, and they know that their top priority is trying to rescue Lloyd, and they gotta figure out where he is. We then get another moment of Lloyd being captured, and we get some pretty interesting scenes. For starters, when it comes to this, we get more evidence on the side of Harumi not getting a redemption arc and that she's going to just be fully evil during the season and not change. Mainly because Harumi talks about with what she's doing how it's not a mistake, and she talks about how there's only destruction brought by the conflict between light and darkness, and how by destroying the balance lane there be only darkness, that's how there will be peace. Which is literally the exact same thing we got from Harumi during Season 8, with how she said that what she wanted was to protect Ninjago, give it the leader it truly deserves, restore it to glory. But her actions showed her doing literally the exact opposite, and her making Ninjago a terrible place and leaving it in nothing but ruins. This is literally the exact same thing that's happening here. She says that what she wants is to do one thing, but her actions show literally the exact opposite. And from what we've seen during the LegoCon trailer, again, we're seeing that exact same situation with her trying to take over Ninjago. How the heck is this going to result in peace and good things happening? Also at the same time, after this moment, we get a scene that is literally just a recreation of Garmadon's resurrection from Season 8. And look, I've made it pretty clear when it comes to my videos, I don't like Season 8, and I think it's a really overrated season, and it isn't that good of a season. I even consider it to be the worst season in the show. But I can't give Season 8 this. I did really like the Garmadon stuff, and when it comes to the stuff we're seeing here, it's pretty similar to that actually, and I do like that. We get something pretty interesting when it comes to Asphira, with her being the one to perform the ceremony in order to resurrect the Crystal King, and we get a pretty funny Pythor moment actually with Asphira doing the chanting and stuff, and Pythor just going on again, seriously, I really like the villain dynamics that they have when it comes to this season. It's pretty good. We then continue on some more of the whole resurrection of the Overlord stuff, with Harumi literally just repeating a bunch of stuff she said when she was trying to resurrect Garmadon, so, I'm not really surprised there. Also, one thing that I do want to point out when it comes to this episode, I just noticed this really, with it being around the crystal that the Crystal King is in, it is an Ouroboros symbol, so once again, after playing Xenoblade Chronicles 3 for a long, long time, I am very familiar with the concept of this. So again, I just wanted to point that out. Eventually, the Crystal King makes his return in what is honestly a really, really great villain introduction when it comes to the show, with the Overlord stepping out of his crystal, fully powered up as the Crystal King, and Lloyd recognizes him somehow. I'm not sure how characters are able to recognize the Overlord as the Crystal King. It's just something kind of interesting. But anyway, we get a really, really great moment actually, where the Overlord actually repeats something that Lloyd said to him all the way back during Season 2 actually, with the Overlord saying the line, "It ends here," which just, again, that is a really, really great callback, and that's where the episode comes to an end. So yeah, overall when it comes to this episode, I do think that it is pretty good, honestly. There are some issues that I have with this, mainly just some more Harumi related stuff. But overall, again, this episode, it wasn't too bad. And again, I do think that this is actually one of the better episodes from Crystalized. I don't think this episode is better than The Fall of the Monastery. That is still what I consider to be the best episode of Crystalized. But again, overall, this was a pretty good episode, actually. I'm going to be honest, I definitely have had my doubts when it comes to Crystalized, given some of the more recent episodes we've gotten, like episode 14 and especially episode 13, because I I just think that episode's really bad, honestly. But if we're getting more episodes like this, episodes 15 and 16, I am trying to remain optimistic when it comes to Crystalized, and from the way things are looking, things can end up going pretty good. And so that's pretty much all I got for you guys. So tell me down below, what do you guys think? What were your guys' thoughts when it comes to episode 16 of Crystalized? Tell me down below, and I hope you guys enjoyed. Later, guys, this is Dimension Master Studios signing off.